Hello everyone, I'm Axelsims, and today we're going to be talking about fan pandering and something similar of that subject, because recently there's been these new releases and hints and prospects and pokes and things like that, suggesting certain things that is causing a lot of concern and rage and joy and anticipation toward. And for those of you who want something a little bit more clean and I don't know, animated or something that sounds really good, do realize that this is I don't really consider this to be a major discussion, just something to talk about, because why not? So don't expect major editing or anything like that. This is just a talk between person to person. And by all means, if you feel like commenting or making a video response or something like that, sharing your opinions, by all means, feel right ahead. Go right ahead. I do realize that this is kind of a waking up moment for me, so I might not be in the best mood or have the best talking abilities, so I'll try my best. But regardless, let's start talking about this. So, recently there has been a lot of rage and arguing over the Star Wars remake, because they are remaking the Star Wars videos and movies, not videos. And it's by a different director, and some people are raging, obviously, saying that this is going to be completely horrible, and other things like that. Some other popular discussions is the new Devil May Cry, or DMC, and then there is also the Season 3 of MLP FIM, or My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, and the recent pointing or hinting at the fact that Twilight, the main character, might become a alicorn, which is basically like a really bad fanfic. So, let's focus on not one particular branch in general, or one example, but generally as a whole subject in general. See, there needs to be a balance, really, in artist and fan. There needs to be a connection. They need to work together, or else bad things happen. It works both ways, in all honesty. If the artist has too much weight, or the scales tip in his favor, then we have an artistic pet project. Something that is just horrible, that is only designed for his or her personal taste. On the other hand, if the fan has too much weight, then it becomes fan pandering, or a cash-in, where they only do what the fan wants because the fan is the money. In all honesty, both of these are wrong. Both of these are bad. Good examples of fan pandering right now are Season 3 My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, because most of those episodes have been what the viewer wants. Now, it's not horribly wrong, but it is starting to get in that general direction, especially with the fact that the original artist for Generation 4, Lauren Faust, is no longer working on the show. And since she was the original creator of the show, and was there for 2 seasons, well, not of the show, but of that generation, it isn't really a good sign when the artist, the creator, the main producer, the main designer, leader, whatever you want to call it, isn't even there anymore, because it has taken directions that she does not want, he or she, but in this example, she. Now, I do not have a Yahtzee opinion, which by that means I don't think that all remakes and sequels should not exist. I do wish there was more original content, but I do not necessarily hate the idea of branching on, or focusing, or expanding on original concepts already made. If we didn't have people who expanded on these ideas or medias, we wouldn't have things like Transformers Prime. We wouldn't have things like Mass Effect 2, or things like, I don't know, MLP Generation 4. Because, let's face it, most people who can agree that those things are, even if they don't like them, really good for that fan base, and they're of at least decent quality. On the other hand, some bad examples of this is the Final Fantasy series, which have gone completely wild and out of control, and basically is a final hallway where you walk around and you watch stuff and you click a button once and twice. And yes, anyway, but regardless, there seems to be a lack of quality in some things, and that's because more often than not, people are just cashing in to get money. And that's not good. That's not really art anymore after that point, in my opinion. I mean, Dragon Age 2 is a great example of this. People want another Dragon Age 2 game. Or they didn't want another Dragon. They want another Dragon Age game because Dragon Age Origins is possibly one of the greatest games of all time, personal opinion. One of, not the, but they knew that they wanted this, so they decided to make a completely rubbish game. They rushed it. It wasn't really well done, and it wasn't really in depth. It just was rushed, and they threw it out there, and people bought it, and they didn't like it. And now there's probably never going to be a Dragon Age 3 game, which would be really sad if that actually is the case. See, it needs to have the scales balanced. You can't just go in one direction or other. You can't please everybody, and sometimes sacrifices need to be made. The best idea, or the best way to go around these things, the best way to judge things, judge media or movies or games or books in general, in my opinion, is to look at that particular example or media and not what's connected to it. When you do this, you might actually have a different opinion. For example, if you judge the new generation of MLP based on the MLP in general, it's not that good. But if you take it away, if you take Generation 4 away from all the other stuff, all the other generations, it's actually decent. You can start to realize, you know what, this is actually pretty good. It has good artwork, it has good characters, and each episode is generally at least interesting in some way or another. And then you start to realize there also is really, really bad things, like Dragon Age 2, for example. When I first played Dragon Age 2, I was like, oh, this is going to be so awesome, because I had that, that feeling of reminiscence of the original Dragon Age Origins, where I was like, oh my god, this is so awesome, and then I started playing it more and more, and I was just like, okay, you know what, this isn't that good anymore. And in all honesty, sometimes it feels like really bad fanfiction. Either way, if it's an artist's fan or pet project where it's really, they don't care about anyone else's opinion and they just want to do what they want, it doesn't look that good, and you have to work together, I guess. Now, most people have the opinion that, well, there's actually not really a majority in either way. There's been this huge feud because what is the worth of the fan? Some people say that fans are not entitled to anything because they're not creating the show. Some people argue that fans should have their worth or weight in words because they are the ones funding the show by buying it or paying it or watching it. That is why people make movies, is for a profit. But it should also be to entertain and make a media that people like. And that's what I'm kind of talking about. You kind of have to do both. You can't just do one or the other. fan pandering, or trying to just please the fan, is not generally in a good way, because sometimes fans have really stupid ideas and opinions. Like, personal opinion, Twilight becoming an alicorn sounds really stupid. Like a really, really, really stupid idea. But that's opinion. And that's the whole thing that some people need to realize, is that opinions, even if they are not similar to you, and even if they sound really stupid, are still opinions. And your opinion is not worth any more than someone else's opinion. Or less. Or at least that's how it should be. It's not really, but it's how it should be. And the only way that I can think of to judge something without offending either is to look at it by itself and say, yes, this might be a sequel, but it sucks, or the animation is bad, or the storyline is bad, or the characters are bad. Instead of saying something like a series is bad. Or at least that's what I try to do. That, beside the point, no matter what I say, no matter what anyone says, people are still going to rage. In my opinion, fans should have some worth, but they shouldn't be able to control the entire flow. Neither, in my opinion, the artist is the creator, and fans, more often or not, will expand on that original concept with their own, like fanfiction or animation. And most of the time, they can be decent-ish. Decent-ish, this isn't even a word. There are some good fanfics out there. There are some terrible fanfics out there. There are really good animations and videos out there. There are bad. But in the end, the artist, in my opinion, should have control over where the show goes. But at the same time, should listen, or at least take into account the fan's opinion. It's really hard to have a neutral ground, but I try my best. That being said, there's a lot of sequels out there that suck. Oh my god, there are so many sequels and remakes that are just terrible. Or just expansions on a general concept, like the Silent Hill movies. If you play the Silent Hill games and you watch the movies are rubbish if you play the games. Unless you can just kind of forget about the games. And that's what you need to do. You need to just judge something on itself. That being said, Silent Hill, the movie, is okay. I don't really feel either way for it. Compared to the games, it's rubbish, but you shouldn't do that. Regardless, that's my personal opinion on it. That's my neutral opinion. And personally, I absolutely despise DMC because I played the original 3, and even doing what I said I should do and judging it on itself, I still think it's horrible. Simply because the gameplay just isn't the same, and just, I don't know, something about it I just don't like. Maybe it's just nostalgia, but like I said, I try to follow my own advice. Still can't really like it though. I don't know what it is. There's just something about it that throws me off. I don't really feel either way towards the new Star Wars movies. Star Wars, not war. I never really was too much into Star Wars in general, honestly. I mean, I like Star Wars. I watch the movies. It's not that I don't really care either way. It's just, I don't know. Maybe I never really got too much into it. I watch the movies. I like the movies. I think that expanding on something could be nice, but at the same time, I hate Star Wars: The Clone Wars. I don't know what it is. I just don't like it. I'm not looking forward to Twilight becoming an alicorn, but I am looking forward to Season 3 in general because, well, most of the episodes are still pretty dang good, even though that does seem like it's dangerously heading towards fan pandering, especially with the most recent episodes, and the fact that Lauren Foss is no longer in it. And I don't think I'll ever be satisfied until season 3 of The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya comes out. So, anyway, good night, everyone.